the one advice that I I don't know if it's like a single advice, but the conversation I have with most people when I talk about a restaurant that they're about to open is, like, what is your competitive advantage? Like, why should people come to your restaurant? Why should you stay alive? What is it about your operation that it will make you not fail within the first year? That, I don't know, 80% or whatever people fail within the first year. I don't know what the percentage is, but I made that up. But there's something like that, right? So what is it about your operation that will keep you in business? And most people, they don't have an answer. Yeah. I was having a conversation with my wife yesterday, which she will probably not listen to this. But we were talking about a new restaurant that we're like a space. We have this space that is available to us, and we're thinking about a concept. And like, she wants this to be her place. So she has this really good idea, like a place that has this ambiance of the places that we loved in Paris and New York and these places. And I tell her, well, but the space, won't physically fit that concept. So if the space doesn't fit the concept, you need to pivot and look at what does this space allow, right? So there's two motivations. Is the space the motivator? Like, this space is in a perfect placement in this neighborhood, and like, it's so beautiful, right? And then the second motivation is, I have this idea of something that I think people really enjoy, and it's that idea, the city or this neighborhood needs this concept. And very often they try to force a concept into a space, or vice versa. And that, to me, is like the biggest mistake, because some of those factors that come with the space are so defining for their operation. How in a city like this that has such fluctuations between busy and slow, what is the minimum amount of staff you can have to be in control of your space, and what's the max? What is the number you need when it's really busy? And if it's too far apart, then how are you able to actually keep the skill level required in the staff to be consistent on your product throughout that time? You know what I mean? Yeah. So at Lysverket, I'm not. That space is so awkward that when we were doing lunch, you still need table service, because it's not like a classic lunch type of counters. Like, you can't come up to the counter and order and you can see the entire room from the counter, right? So that means you need about the same amount of staff on a slow lunch just to cover the actual real estate than you do in a busy dinner. But the revenue is 3 times higher for dinner, sure, right? So, like, I think the restaurateur, there's hardly such a thing as a restaurateur anymore. A restaurateur is normally a cook who has more restaurants. That becomes the restaurateur, right? But I think very often people have a set idea of what they want to do, and then they try to force it into a specific location or a specific space. Yeah, that I think is why you see a lot of stuff failing. They're not analytical enough about it. There's no market research. They don't do a polling. Like, I asked a friend of mine, and this is the craziest thing. I don't understand it. I asked a friend of mine who works for a big restaurant group in New York, and I asked her, when you guys open up in one of these new developments, what statistics and what data do you pull from to determine the size of the restaurant, the concept, opening hours, seats, all these different things? Because there's an algorithm, I'm sure. Yep. And she says, we don't really have those numbers. It's like, no way, man. Like, and I think the world is that random. I don't think. I know that the grocery store next door. They look at the median income of the neighborhood, and then they have a couple of different type of stores in their portfolio, and they say, okay, the neighborhood has this medium income. That means we put this store in, right? If there's a higher income, we'll put this more high-end store or whatever, But I think that's super rare. And to me, that is the craziest stuff, because like this street here, it's the same company that has developed the entire area. Like, I don't know, 1,000 apartments, and with businesses like commercial real estate on all the first floors. So they approached me I talked to them for this space, and they asked me, what do you want to do? And I said, well, what do you guys need? What does the neighborhood need? We don't know. Like, what do you mean you don't know? You've built buildings with commercial real estate in specific sizes and layouts, an entire street. You don't know how many hairdressers do you need? How many clothing stores do you need? Do you need one high-end clothing store and two cheap ones? Do you need one Payless shoe source, or whatever it's called, and then another high-end one? Like, and there's nobody knows. You know what I mean? Sure. Which is crazy, nuts. Imagine the amount of money being spent on developing restaurants and concepts without having those numbers. It's a huge difference having 60 and 120 seats or 250 seats, It should be algorithm based. So anyway, I would say like that to me is like really understanding the neighborhood you want to open in and being very, very analytical. What was your question?
Yeah, common misconception restaurant first time owners make. But do you think that story comes after? Because so many people there are people who really connect with the story that a restaurant has, or that why their food is, but that to you is like, that can come later. That's like this underlying.
What do you mean? That the guest connect with the story?
How the guest perceives you and your
What's up, hello.
What like your background, or how you look at the product from the ocean differently, or like all these people who say that. Yeah,
but you're talking about the 1% though. I mean, it's the 1% of you're going to open a restaurant. It will not be a 1% restaurant. Right. You will follow the 1% on Instagram, but you will be one of all the other ones, and all the other ones, nobody gives a shit. People use the restaurant the way they want to use the restaurant.
That's great.
That to me is like everybody opens a restaurant thinking they want to be that 1%. Yeah. No, thinking they will be, they won't. And then, I'm happy not being that. Like with the Frantzen and Lysverket, I chose not to invite all these. Well, it's not like I could pick anyone I wanted, but our thought process was always like, who has something to teach us, not who will put us in that same category as who will put us up in the 1%.
Because they bounce, they have very short attention spans.
Yeah, and also of those 1%, how many of the guests really go to the restaurant because they really, really give a shit about who they are? Yeah. I think that is somebody should do a study on that. I'm sure that's, I don't know.
I wanted to talk about if you have any failures.
Are you zooming in on me now?
Any failures that you're particularly fond of at any point? It can be when you were
fond of?
Or that set you up.